Hi, I'm Pastor John of the Baptist Church in the Great Valley, and reading from John's Gospel, chapter 15, verses 4 through 6. Jesus said, "Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides, or we might say stays connected with the vine, neither can you unless you abide or stay connected with me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned." Back in Jesus' day, grapes were a very important crop of the land. The vines were carefully pruned and cut back so that they would produce a large crop. And they took very careful care of their grapevines because it was so important and they were so valuable. Do you like grapes? I do. They're delicious. We have a lot of grapevines here on the church grounds. They're not pruned, they're not disciplined or controlled, and as a result they only grow tiny little worthless grapes, the kind that birds like to gobble up. But what's worse is they tend to grow up on top of bushes and trees. They put out large leaves that can shade the tree or the bush from the sunlight. So in other words, they're taking advantage of the bush. They're taking advantage of the trees. They're getting up on top and getting all of the sunlight while the bush or the tree is in the shadow and really not getting what it needs. And eventually this can weaken a tree, make it susceptible to diseases. Well, sometimes when I'm out there, I'll take a saw and I will cut through the vine. And you know what happens then. All of the leaves up on top begin to wither and shrivel and die. And then the tree can once again thrive. It's getting the sunlight that it needs to stay strong and healthy. I was walking out to get the mail, and I was walking down by the parsonage, and there's a beautiful big bush down there, and I noticed that even in that bush, a grapevine was starting to take over. It was starting to grow over the top. It was starting to shadow the bush. Eventually I went out with my snippers and I cut the vines down close to where they enter the soil, and it hardly took any time at all for the leaves to begin to wither and turn brown and die. So once again, the bush has a fighting chance. Well, Jesus was interested in good grapes and a good crop coming from the grapevines. And he said, you have to stay connected. The leaves have to stay connected to the vine if you're ever going to bear good fruit, if you're ever going to produce a good crop. So here we are today. We are God's representatives in the world. We are here to do good things and to produce a good crop. But in order to do so, we must remain connected to Jesus. We must be drawing direction and energy. We must be drawing our strength from God. Because once we get separated, once we get busy doing our own things, our own spiritual life will begin to wither and perish, just like the leaves on a grapevine.